we have to set up that connection early before things get out of hand. We have to do that work, and we have to get that connection set up, because once the meltdown starts and she starts hitting her brother or any of that other stuff, it's too late. We're already I can't I I,
Absolutely.
I can't sit down and say, "Oh, let me give you a hug. You just hit your brother." Like, that's not going to work.
No, absolutely not. I always teach people boundaries are not incompatible with connection.
Yeah.
We connect first, we connect early, we connect often, but we do set boundaries when needed.
Welcome back to Raising Men. Today, we are joined by Todd Sarner. Todd is a licensed psychotherapist and a parent coach who has spent over 20 years helping families move from constant conflict to deep connection. Todd is a former faculty member of the Newfield Institute. He's the author of The Calm and Connected Parent. He specializes in looking beneath the surface of bad behavior to address the root causes of family stress. Bad behavior should be put in scare quotes there. If you've ever felt like you're
Good.
stuck in daily power struggles, Todd is the guy who can help you stop reacting and start leading with intention and science. Todd, welcome to Raising Men.
Thank you. I sound pretty good. That's
You know what?
amazing.
You are pretty good, and you should sound that way. I'm so thrilled, and apologies to you and to the audience for my voice. I'm still getting over this this voice thing that I've had for about a week and a half. It's kind of brutal.
You're forgiven. You have a great broadcasting voice, Shaun.
Thank you for that. That's very kind.
Your bad cold day is better than my best day.
Well, so this episode is such perfect timing for me, because I want to switch gears a little bit from what we normally talk about. The podcast is called Raising Men, and it's focused on, turning boys into excellent men. But I'll tell you, your body of work is so applicable to some challenges that I'm having right now with my 4-year-old daughter. And I would love to drill into those and just get as much wisdom as I can from you in dealing with that stuff. How does that sound?
Awesome. I'll put you on the clock immediately.
Super. Okay, so let me tell you what's going on. My daughter's 4 years old, and the primary thing that we're dealing with literally every single morning, the morning starts out fine. She gets up, she walks into our room, and she is a pleasant, beautiful little angel. And everybody's happy. We're all happy with her. Within about 15 minutes, it always descends into an absolute power struggle in the family. We can't get her to do anything. We start, everything becomes this meltdown, and we end up screaming in each other's faces, and it is very unpleasant. And literally, it's every single morning. It's turning into this. It is exactly the way that I described it in the intro. We're just stuck in daily power struggles. So, let's start with that first. How should I be thinking about this, in a way that is healthy, as opposed to just, like starting to lock horns with my daughter every morning?
Yeah, once you lock horns with a preschooler, you've already lost.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Already lost. That's not your job. Your job isn't to lock horns like you're her friend or her peer. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about kind and strong leadership, and that parents need to be in what we call the alpha position. And the alpha position is not you're a dictator and you're punishing. Alpha is more like you're a mama bear or you're a papa bear, and that your job is to take care of them. Your job is not to be their friend. It's wonderful if they're having a good experience and you feel close, and that's really, really important. And we want them to be happy, but that's not your main job. Your main job, Shaun, is to be Papa Bear. And when you're locking horns with a 4-year-old, you're not being a Papa Bear. You're being a frustrated peer in a way. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Is that too harsh of a way to start?
Not at all. Not at all.
I try to come from
exactly
like
right. And I'll
love.
tell you, I really struggle. I mean, and I'm conscious of that, right? I'm
Yeah.
conscious of, like, I don't wanna get in a fight, but it's like she's trying to push my buttons and get a reaction from me. And and the only the only real tool I feel like I have is to, send her for a break, right? Okay, like,
Sure, but
go
that
to your room
yeah,
and let's get away from each other for a little while.
yeah. So yeah, I do have actual feedback for you. I mentioned to you before we started recording, um, when my kid was 3 or 4, my mentor, Dr. Gordon Neufeld, who wrote the book "Hold On to Your Kids," I was at that point, I might have been an intern still with him, or I might have been teaching on his faculty, but he did like a 3.5 hour talk in Alberta, Canada, I believe,
Mm.
on making sense of preschoolers, and I was obsessed with it because my kid was that age, and so I ended up transcribing the whole talk and then talking to him in our consults about it, and I started teaching that material to preschools around the area. And I just think preschoolers are some of the most fascinating, um, human beings there are. They're so adorable and beautiful, and we love them so much. But man, you could diagnose them with about 10 different things if you were allowed to diagnose them. You're not supposed to diagnose because most kids that age would be diagnosed with ADD, obsessive compulsive, antisocial, disorder, all
Yeah,
these things because their brains are just not developed yet.
yeah.
One or two questions before I tell you a couple things, Shaun, um, is one, does she tend to get up first and wake you up, or are you going and waking her up?
I would no, so I we never wake her up. We let her get up naturally. Um, Sometimes it's hardly ever the case that we're asleep when she wakes up, though.
Okay, cool. And does she go to preschool or does she go to
She goes
daycare
to
or
a
anything?
daycare.
Yeah, daycare. So here's some things in terms of understanding, okay? The first thing I say to every parent of a preschooler anywhere is there's a critical thing to understand about their brain that I don't know if you've heard yet, Shaun, but it defines so much of your experience and so much of her experience. Do you know what the prefrontal cortex is? Frontal
I
lobe
talk
right
about
here?
this a lot. Actually, the
Yeah,
model that I like to use is the Sherlock Holmes brain versus the Conan the Barbarian brain.
right. So when we're talking about nervous system regulation, which is a big focus of mine in adults, if you're having a fight or flight experience, you do not have access to your frontal lobe. You're more in your lizard brain, you're in your amygdala, you're in your brain stem, in your limbic system. Your daughter does not have a functioning frontal lobe. She does not have a functioning prefrontal cortex. It does not exist yet, or more technically, it's there,
She doesn't have access
but
to
it's not connected yet to the cerebral cortex. That means everything. That is the mixing bowl of the brain. It's what allows you to be focused on daddy and mommy at the same time. Or I have this feeling and this feeling. Or I want to punch something and, oh, I'm not going to because I get in trouble and it hurts the other person. She doesn't have that. It
Mhm.
doesn't exist. So if she gets locked in on something, she's locked in. And if you start battling her, you cannot win, not only because of the alpha thing that I mentioned, but because she's not going to get out of it by you butting heads with her. She's going to stay locked in. If she's focused on separation anxiety and missing you or being away, she's locked in. If she's locked into her frustration inside, she's locked in. If you think about the devil and the angel on the shoulder,
Yeah,
like in the TV show,
yeah.
when she's upset or she's anxious, there's no angel on her shoulder. It is all the other guy, right?
Mhm.
And so if you don't understand that, or you have some understandings of that, but if you don't realize that in the moment, you too easily get locked in like she should this or she should that or she can't do this. I almost totally guarantee you there's two things going on in those moments. One, your daughter is probably experiencing separation anxiety.
Mm.
Separation anxiety defines so much of human behavior and personality. including when we're adults. I'm a parenting coach, but I'm also an individual psychotherapist, and I'm a couples counselor who only works with couples who have kids. And I've been doing that a long time. I can guarantee you that when you're having a fight with your wife, and I know you don't fight with anybody, Shaun, ever, but if any of the guys
I
out
wish
there
that were
happen to,
true. I
right?
wish that were true, Todd.
Yeah, but when you're fighting with your wife, I guarantee you there's some part of your programming or her programming that says he might leave me, she might leave me, she's going to
100%.
remove love from me. Separation anxiety is core to our operating systems.
Mm.
Now, when you take a 3 or 4-year-old, it's almost everything.
And
They
it's an
cannot
existential
serve.
threat. They
It's
die
an
if that happens.
existential right, because
Yeah.
my whole science that I work with is attachment science, and attachment science is very clear. It's very scientific. It's not controversial. Like sometimes it is on blogs when people are talking about attachment parenting or helicopter parenting. It's all a misrepresentation.
Mm.
Attachment science is not controversial. It says the number one thing that determines how we think, how our personalities develop, how we behave, is how secure we feel in our primary attachments.
Mm.
So when it comes to kids, if they're not feeling secure inside, which is common, which is a lot of the time, because it takes years to develop a secure base, it's going to determine a lot of their behavior. We'll get back to that in a moment. Tell me if I'm doing too much.
No, I think
But
this
when
is
it comes
so
to, when
what
it
comes
comes,
to mind there
yeah,
is sometimes it just feels to me like she's coming in and trying to test to find out whether or not I'm gonna be around if she's just a jerk.
absolutely she is, but it's completely unconscious.
Yeah.
And if you think she's being conscious about it, if you think she's doing it on purpose, you're naturally going to have an antagonistic point of view towards her and be like, how dare you, you know? And even if you don't think you are, if you think she has an agenda that's conscious, attachment is an instinct. It's an instinct in you. It's an instinct in me. It is not a thought out thing where your daughter wakes up and goes, you know what I'll do?
Yeah.
I
Evil
will
genius.
go in there and be a little holy terror
Right.
with my father, right? She's not. She's operating on instinct. So let me try to keep my thoughts collected. In the morning, she's waking up with kind of an empty cup, okay? Because she can't maintain, and I should have got water. She can't maintain a sense of connection all night. It drifts. Okay.
Got it.
So she wakes up and she's already feeling a little empty. And now what is she facing? Oh, I'm excited. Mommy's here. Daddy's here. I get connection. But what's coming next? What's coming next is daycare. What's
Yeah.
coming next is preschool. That is separation. So she's starting to feel that. Okay. And it is frustrating. And if she has a buildup of frustration inside, she will become aggressive. She'll have a meltdown. She'll have a tantrum. She'll hit. She'll say, you're the worst daddy ever. All these things, the core of it is separation anxiety. The frustration causes aggression. And Neufeld used to always joke that, you know, honestly and also jokingly, that preschoolers are the most naturally aggressive
Hmm.
human beings in terms of human development, because they have all this frustration. They don't have the frontal lobe to temper it, and so they just hit or they just tantrum or they just explode, right? So that's me telling you, drinking from a fire hose, all sorts of stuff, right? What the answer is we get up before her. We are really ready for her. We
Mm.
collect her in a big way, meaning we get her face and we get her smile and we really connect before anything else. It makes all the difference in the world. But then we help her hold on through separation by what we call bridging. We talk about what we'll do when daddy gets home after daycare. We really get a vivid image in her brain of what it's going to look like when we get back together at the end of the day, and that I'm going to give you 100 kisses, and we're probably going to have to wrestle and we're going to have to play. And you know what? When daddy's at work today and you're at daycare, I'm going to be thinking of you, And maybe even you open up your lunch at daycare and there's a little sticker that says I love you, or a little note or something, right?
Yeah.
I could go in depth, if you can probably tell, an hour about any of the things I just said,
Right.
okay? But I wanted to give you a general sense. You have on the one hand, or first, overarching, you have an undeveloped brain that can't temper, that can't weigh things out. Then you have separation anxiety that's too much to handle sometimes, which also leads to frustration. It's like at night when you give your kid a bath, a lot of times that's where trouble starts, or they start
Sure.
acting up, or they act up at the dinner table. Why? Because they really love being together. They love being with you. They love being with the family. And what's happening soon?
You're
Bath
gonna have to go to bed.
means bed,
Yeah.
right? And so the separation anxiety. So we have to switch our entire mindset, get in that alpha position, understand what your kids are doing is mostly instinct, it's not thought out,
Yeah.
and that your job is to be a good guide, to be a person who's a big papa bear who sees the big picture of what's happening with this little girl is she's just facing separation, and it's my job to help her focus on togetherness and reunion instead of the separation. Because even if they love their daycare, even if they love their school, my kid loved his kindergarten, but he would drag his feet, not want to get his shoes on in the morning,
Yeah.
and he would come home sometimes with an empty cup, and he would be a little holy terror sometimes when he would get home from preschool because he was having a hard time holding on during the day. Our job is to rise above it, help them construct these things in their brain, the neural pathways that hold on. And boy, is that a lot of answer for a simple question, but that's just where I would start off, and we can go into any aspect of it.
I love that. One of the things the one of the real keys to that for me, and I really struggle with this, as you can imagine, and I suspect everybody does, is I need to retain that conscious thought that this is not being done on purpose. It
Mhm.
feels like she's intentionally being manipulative, intentionally trying to test boundaries, intentionally trying to do all of those things. And she kind of is, but it's instinctual. And it feels to me, I find myself drifting over into that authoritarian kind of parenting style where I want no, you can't act this way and we don't do this and that sort of thing. And then I end up in this tension between the authoritarian parent over here and this total, gentle parenting kind of, with
Right, but
no boundaries kind of
yeah.
style here. And I struggle to find the balance between those two things.
Yeah, and
What
what
is
you just described, Sean, I've been doing this 23, 24 years, a parent coach, I've been a therapist for 17 or 18. I was working with kids for years before that in foster and adoptive programs and in group homes and things. What you just described is exactly what happens in the parenting industry every 2 years. Every 2 years, it's gentle this, gentle that. I'm all about being gentle with our kids and being a kind leader, absolutely. But what they don't talk about is that boundaries are also necessary.
Yeah,
We also have to have consequences. Those don't need to be punishing, but they need to exist.
yeah.
And gentle parenting doesn't necessarily say you're not supposed to do those things. They just don't talk about it all the time. So then everybody sees their kids acting up and walking all over them. So then they swing to F around and find out parenting and authoritarian. And then they feel awful and they feel guilty and they go back. When you're a parent and you have a kid and you're right in it, you don't see those swings because you're just in it. But when you've been doing it a couple decades, you see that it just keeps doing that.
Yeah.
And the answer is a third way. And I had another mentor, Stan Tatkin. I had a couple of mentors in the couples realm, Sue Johnson, who just passed away a couple years ago, and her EFT methodology, and Stan Tatkin, who's down in Calabasas. And he, brilliant guy, friend, in his PACT method. He said this thing that I don't know if it's attributable directly to him, but it really stuck with me. He said, conflict versus deficit.
Hmm.
And he said that in the context of couples, but I think it absolutely applies to kids. The conflict mindset is what I just said. My partner on purpose isn't helping me. My partner on purpose isn't being who I need them to be. My kid on purpose is testing my limits and pushing my boundaries, and it seems intentional. You will naturally just antagonize. You will naturally just gridlock. We've already covered that.
Yeah.
The deficit model is my partner or my child just doesn't know how to do something. When it comes to my partner or me, it's because I probably didn't get it myself. Okay. Um, I'm making
Yeah.
this up entirely, Shaun. I don't want
Yeah.
my mom to get mad at me. But when I was my 80-year-old mom, who, if she stumbled across the Raising Men podcast, if my mom, when I was little, was a germaphobe and she was really afraid of me when I was sick and she left me alone when I was sick, I would have the experience of feeling really alone and like I'm used to them. That's what it is, right? And I would
Yeah.
just think that's what people do.
Yeah.
So then I'm an adult and my husband, if it was your wife or my partner, my wife was sick, I leave her alone because that's what I'm used to,
Yeah.
because that's what you do.
Yeah.
What's my partner's experience?
Her experience
Why
is
why is
abandonment.
Todd leaving me alone?
Yeah.
Why is he abandoning me? You're supposed to help each other. I
Yeah.
don't know any better because I wasn't given any better.
Yeah.
So I just give the adult example to help make it real, right? Guess what's true about your daughter? She doesn't know how to do anything.
Anything. Yeah.
Like they get to be preschoolers and we start going, oh, look at them. They look like little mini me's and they look like little mini adults and they must be a lot more capable. No, they're not. They're this far developmentally from a toddler.
Yeah.
They're this far developmentally from somebody who didn't even know how to talk. Okay.
Yeah.
But we start projecting these capacities upon them that they do not have. And so you have to remember that with our partners, the chances are the things that they're not doing well are because they don't know it. They weren't taught it. And if we think they're doing it on purpose, we're going to feel like mad.
Yep.
If we get, oh crap, they just don't know how to, now I can be more compassionate. Now I can explain to them, hey, I know this isn't something you were used to. And maybe I didn't even get it, but now I know it's right. Or I got it, so that's why I feel bad. But I just really, in those moments, I need you to help me out with this and maybe be there for me and maybe bring me, some soup and tell me I'm going to be. But
Yeah.
that is like when it's your daughter, your son, it's most of it.
Yeah.
And we have to have that deficit model. They just don't know how to yet. So then what's your job if it's a conflict model? I'm going to fight with you and I'm going to show you that you should do this. When it's a deficit model, you're like, I'm your big papa bear. My job is to help you learn this,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And
And it's
a
just
child
like
at
they
that
can't throw a
age,
baseball from first base to second base. Okay, you're gonna have
my
to
kid could at
handle
that
this
age.
thing.
My kid could at that age. I'm just kidding, but my kid was an outstanding Team
That's amazing. That
USA,
is so cool.
kind of baseball player, but I would just kidding, ego father there. But you have to understand that for, the child, it is mostly instinct. It really is. And what her instinct is, I believe, just from what you told me, and again, 2,300 clients at this point for parenting, is she's feeling anxious. She doesn't know how to use her words. She doesn't know how to process the feelings. On the front end, she needs you to connect with her and she needs you to help her hold on when apart, giving her little things to hold on to, a little bracelet, a little thought. But
Mm,
she also needs you on the back end, maybe not in the morning, but she probably needs you to say no to her in a firm but loving way a little bit more often so she can feel her feelings and get them out. We can talk about that as a whole nother thing. But when kids have a buildup of frustration, it's our job to notice it and set limits with it in a firm but loving way so they can cry and get it out and then they feel better. So I know I went into another
yeah, and
area
I think
there.
one of the things that I'm hearing from you that I need to make sure that we're doing, and it seems to we're trying to do this unconsciously, but we haven't really been intentional about it, is that we have to set up that connection early before things get out of hand. We have to do that work, and we have to get that connection set up, because once the meltdown starts and she starts hitting her brother or any of that other stuff, it's too late. We're already I can't I
Absolutely.
I can't sit down and say, "Oh, let me give you a hug. You just hit your brother." Like, that's not gonna work.
No, absolutely not. I always teach people boundaries are not incompatible with connection.
Yeah.
We connect first, we connect early, we connect often, but we do set boundaries when needed. Um, One of the ways to think about it is like we're managing two cups, going back to my analogy here with my empty water cup.
Yeah.
Is on the one hand, we're trying to maintain a level of connection that's not perfect, not all the way full all the time, but we're trying to keep the connection kind of at a good level. Because when people are this way, how are you, Shaun? How are you, Shaun, when you're feeling connected to your partner, you're feeling loved, you right?
Yeah,
Do
I'm a
you
superstar.
listen? Do you cooperate? Do
Yeah.
you do well, right? How are you when you're here?
A lot less that way.
Pain in the butt, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and you're a grown ass man, but you probably don't act like it sometimes, right? I don't.
Yeah.
I'm again, maybe you're above that, like I am.
Like
um,
you are. Yeah.
right. So on the one hand, we're trying to maintain that cup of connection, and we understand that the younger they are, there's almost like there's a hole in the bottom because they just can't hold on to that connection
Mm.
forever, right?
Mm.
And so we have to kind of top it up, just like a good waiter will give you a little bit more water before you're thirsty, right? Okay. And that's our job. On the other hand, we have a cup of frustration,
Mm.
and that will grow. Little things where she's facing, she has to go to school or daycare and she doesn't want to, or she misses daddy, or she misses mommy, or her sibling is getting more attention right now, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's going to build. And our job is to notice when it's getting high and set limits in a firm but loving way so she can cry and get it out. And then that cup resets. But if that cup gets too full, they will aggress no matter what. They will hit, they will kick, they will scream, they will tantrum. My friend Kim John Payne, the parenting author, we are having dinner once here in town, and he said, "But Todd," I'm not going to try to do his accent, but he's from Australia. He lived in England. Now he lives in America. But um, he said there's a third cup of frenetic energy that if there's
Mm.
too much going on with kids and too much activity, they need that cup to be able to empty. So maybe we'll do that on another day. But
Yeah.
yeah, Shaun,
I love
the
that model. I
yeah
love the model of the separate cups.
right. The thirsty analogy is the one to go with.
Yeah.
I'm riffing on what you said. You want to feed them before they're hungry. You want to give them water before they're thirsty, because, like they say, when you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated, right?
Yeah.
So I get there with a big connection. I get there with big love. I get there at that age. And again, I know I'm going. I told you I had a nice big cup of coffee before we talked. Um, at that age, the number one need, because there are 6 different defined needs that kids have for attention, I guarantee you she absolutely needs to feel special. Okay. And that doesn't
Yeah. That
mean you
is
just
so
give her a
true.
sticker and tell her she's special generically.
Yeah.
What is it about this little girl that is awesome, that is unique, that makes her her? And it's not outcome. It's not you drew that picture perfectly, okay? Because then what if she can't do it right next time and then she'll feel bad? It's, oh my gosh, you love coloring. Oh, you use so many amazing colors. You love singing.
Yeah.
Not you sing perfectly. You love singing.
Yeah.
You know, and you feed that need and you do it early and you do it before she knows she needs it. You tell her a story about herself that is amazing, you know? And it will just light her up, and that is the quickest way to fill the bucket,
Man,
at
it's
that
like
age.
you know her. You
I
absolutely know her.
love
It is.
preschoolers, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I absolutely love that. Now talk to me about, I feel like I've recognized a pattern,
Mhm,
and I feel like screens make this stuff worse.
mhm.
And but without screens, I like I can't I can't live my life. I mean, the kids need something. How do I think about screens with respect to this stuff?
Um, I'll do a smart ass answer first. What age group are you in, Shaun? Like,
I am 51.
I'm 55. Did you have screens when you were
No,
little? Okay.
no.
So obviously, our parents survived somehow, right? And
Somehow.
again, I know that's like an antagonistic kind of
No,
answer, but I'm like,
it's such a great observation.
I grew up in Silicon Valley. So if anyone was exposed to these things, I was, because
Sure.
like there was an IBM computer plant near my house in San Jose. There was, Apple, and my middle school was one of the first middle schools that had Apple computers as a lab. I was on a documentary about American kids being into computers when I was little. I was on the Pizza Time
Nice.
Theater board of directors and video game show when I was 13. So it's not that I'm anti-technology, and it's not that I haven't been exposed to it, but it's just important to start off from the perspective that almost all technology is completely optional, and it's important to understand developmentally how it affects things. Because I'm not interested in telling you that screens are all evil all the time and any parent who ever uses a screen is bad. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. I don't believe that. But if we're just to be practical, we need to completely understand the in, like settled science on how screens affect things. My number one concern is that kids develop what we were just talking about, what John Bowlby, the attachment pioneer, called a secure base. That your daughter and your other kid, your sons, develop inside a feeling: I'm good enough, I am loved, I am healthy, I want to be around healthy people, I have good boundaries, I know how to say no, I know how to do things that are constructive and healthy. I'm not obsessed with getting my needs met. I just feel okay inside. So I go and I do creative things and I use my brain right?
Yeah.
That's what we want. That takes 18 years minimum for that to be like built over time, right?
Hmm.
So that's an important thing to understand. The number one thing is that we create a secure base. A byproduct of that secure base is like the secure base is like roots of a tree. That's what I say in the book. That's what Neufeld taught me, that the secure base is like roots of a tree growing deeper over time.
Yeah.
And then maturity is branches of a tree that grow. And when these maturities grow strong, our kids are what we want them to be, meaning they can weigh things out. They can be creative. They don't get bored easily. They can deal with feelings inside of frustration, and they can move through them and get them out. When kids are integrative in the brain, once that's possible and they can do it, when they're adaptive, they can deal with frustration, and they're emergent, they want to learn how things work and they grow and they're interested and they're creative. When they have those three things, I will take that any day. Now, your kid is going to be different than my kid from the next kid, but if they have those capacities, we're good. Does that make sense so far?
100%.
Okay, so how does technology interact with that? Technology can be, when it comes to our first thing, it can be a blocker for secure, deep human connection. We talked about, I don't know if you like beer, you don't like beer, Shaun, but we have some great pubs here in town in Sonoma County.
Yeah.
Russian River Brewing Company. I know down in San Diego, you have dozens. One of
Oh,
my
man.
favorite.
It feels like there's a zillion breweries all over the
Oh
place.
gosh, it's like Portland and in San Diego. One of my
Yeah.
favorite breweries in the world is in Alpine, Michelini brewery down there. Um, but anyway, I have walked into my favorite pub and gone to, hey, I want to be social. I want to get out from behind the screen. I'm going to go have a beer with my wife or with one of my friends. And every single person on the bar at the bar sometimes is on their phone.
Hmm.
I'm not saying all the time. It's a great social place where everybody talks and things, but sometimes you walk into a pub and everyone's on their phone.
Yeah.
Why am I not turning to the person next to me and talking about sports or about life or about beer, right? Why am I on this phone? Why didn't I just stay home? So my point in a roundabout way, because obviously we're not talking about your daughter getting a beer. Probably. Just kidding. But
Not
if
yet.
I screens are addictive in a lot of ways, and they become something where if I'm going to talk to you, Steve, I keep wanting to call you Steve, Shaun, you look like somebody I know named Steve. If I want to talk to you about something that's vulnerable, or you're my friend and I'm hurting,
Yeah.
or you might be hurting, or we might have something difficult going on in life, that's hard. That's difficult sometimes, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Like to talk about things that really matter and that are vulnerable, and that maybe I want to be seen. Maybe I want to feel special when I'm 4 years old or when I'm 55 years old. That's vulnerable. Screens are not vulnerable,
Hmm.
but we think they're meeting our needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're like a junk food version of
Yeah.
connection.
Right? And I'm
Yeah.
not saying they can't be used for good. They can. But I'm just talking about, especially when we're young, especially when we're feeling anxious or we're sensitive. It's like, "Oh, I could talk to this person, but I'll do this." And I'll just like I I worked with kids in group homes, like I said before I was a coach. And I these kids in this group home in Petaluma used to tell me, "Hey, can we go to the library? Hey, can," I'm like, "Oh my goodness, you wanna go to the library? That's amazing. Normally you wanna play video games or, okay, great, let's go." You know why they wanted to go to the library? Because
'Cause they're easy.
MySpace had just been introduced, and they were addicted to this idea that they had 3,000 friends. They
Wow.
did not have 3,000 friends.
Yeah.
So, I might be making this point a little too long and not as directly as I'd like, but when people can easily go on a screen instead of dealing with another human being, it becomes something that gets in the way of connection. That's all. And the
Yeah.
younger a child is, the more that that can be true. It's safer, it's easier, but it's not filling. It is junk food. And
Yep.
then I'll try to make this point a little bit more briefly, but can you tell, Shaun, I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, is those three branches of maturity,
Mhm.
they can also be affected by screen use. If I need to learn how to weigh things out and figure out what different perspectives are in things, is that what we get on social media? Is that the political
Definitely not.
scene these days where
Right.
everybody's like, all the way in my camp or all the way in my camp? There's not like a lot of, hey, this is kind of true and I can see your point, but I kind of think we should try to do it this way.
Yeah.
That is not on social media. Okay. So that one aside, the ones that I'm more concerned with kids is emergent energy. I want to
Mm.
learn and explore and play and figure things out. And I want to be a good learner. I'm not bored. Right? If I can just like look at other people being creative and I can just be like watching a screen all day, I'm not getting my emergent energy out. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Mhm.
And then one that I'm also concerned with is adaptive energy. I can feel my feelings, I can process them, I can get them out. Screens are like any other addiction, and they are an addiction, let's be honest. They raise dopamine levels, okay? So this applies to the last one and this one. If I watch an algorithm that gets me stimulated and gets me excited and is like, cut, 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 do I want to go take a walk in nature?
Yeah. Probably not.
Because I don't get a dopamine rush from nature.
Yeah.
I love nature. It's one of the best things you could ever do for yourself. I go on a walk almost every morning for an hour and I just get the daylight and get around some trees. Okay. Like it's so important for our psyches. It's so important emotionally to get out into nature. But if I'm getting a dopamine fix, like we all know the algorithms are designed to make you buy things and to agitate you because if you're agitated and you're engaged, you buy more things,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't sound like I'm too much on a soapbox. I'm just saying, in terms of healthy development of security and attachment and development of, um, you know, capacities and maturities, screens can be a thing that pauses those things.
Right.
Okay. Because instead of feeling my feelings, I can distract myself on something. Or when I'm adult, I can take a drink or smoke something or, get
Yeah.
obsessed with work. You know, those are all things that are distracting me from. There was a philosopher who once said, most of man's problems stem from the inability to sit alone in a room with his thoughts, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forget which Greek guy said that.
I remember that as well.
Yeah. I would say feelings. I would say most of men's or women's problems stem from the inability to sit alone with our feelings because
Yeah.
we don't want to, but we
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
So, very long answer, very enthusiastic answer, but that's what I keep in mind. It's like technology, Neufeld would say, is like dessert. We have to have dinner before we have dessert.
Mhm.
I want to make sure my kid goes first to connecting with other people. I want to make sure my kid has these capacities. And if my kid has these capacities and they're secure inside, then they will use technology for good. They will use it to connect things. They will use it to solve a problem. They
Yeah.
will use it to be creative. But up until then, so I know it's hard. And you think back to your actual question, but what do I do? We set them up with creative endeavors. We set them up with things where they can paint, where they can build. We have lots of structure where they know we do this and then we do this and then we do this, just like at school. Do
Mhm.
you think a daycare provider is arguing with your daughter about what to do?
No, absolutely not. You're right. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Just
because
like, "All right, this
a
it's now
preschool
arts and crafts
teacher
time,"
A
and then
preschool
that's what we do.
teacher knows we do this and then we do that and then we
Yeah.
do this and then we do that. And the kids do not argue because they know it's time for soup. They know it's
Yep.
time for building, right? That's how we do it. Did I come close to even answering your
Yeah,
question?
one of the things that I definitely wanna kind of double click on or just call out in what you said, and it because it really, really rang true to me, was this notion that once the dessert thing, once they've had dinner, then they can responsibly consume dessert. But if they're just eating dessert, then we call it the sugar worms in our family. That's what's going to happen. They're going to get the sugar worms. They're going to be bouncing across the wall. And the
Right.
same is true with technology. Once, if they're coming from it from a base of having the appropriate amount of connection and and everything else, then they're going to consume technology responsibly. They're actually going to do the things with technology. They're going to use the learning programs as opposed to the games or
I
just watching videos.
I remember. Sorry to interrupt, but I will. I remember being in San Diego with my son for the All-Star game a number of years ago at Petco Park. We were there for
Yeah.
3 days. We did the home run derby. My son had never used an iPad ever. Okay.
Okay.
And I forget how old he was at that point, 12, 10, 11, 12. I forget what year it was. And we're just sitting there in this Airbnb with my brother and sister-in-law and getting ready to go to game. And my son goes, "Dad, is there an app on your iPad that like helps us design a house? Because I want to design a house where you and I can live someday, right?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Probably." And I go on there and I find this app and I decide to do it with him. I'm not just going to give it to him and, send him off, but I'm going to sit there. He figured out how to use the app better than I could.
Yeah. It's amazing what they're
Who was
capable of doing.
who grew up in Silicon Valley, right? Who was
Yep.
always right. My kid
Yep.
was like, "Oh, you probably do this and you probably do that."
Yeah.
That made me so happy
Yeah.
because it wasn't that he was a super genius. Okay. He had other friends that were super geniuses when it came to computers. He had a friend that was taking apart Kindles and putting them back together, but his brain worked. He
Yeah.
could figure things out.
Yeah.
And that is what we want. We want our kids to be in that kind of place and then use technology.
Yeah.
So sorry, when you double
No, I
clicked, it
love
made
that.
me
I
think of
love that
that.
sentiment. That's yeah, that's a really good we're coming up with some really good nuggets here. The glass model of the various the frustration and the connection and
Yeah.
frenetic energy. I love that model and I
Yeah.
love this notion
Kids need
of technology
downtime. They absolutely
yeah,
need downtime or they have too much built up frenetic energy. We need to
yeah,
give them a little space. And when you give kids space, they get a little bored at first, but then if you notice, they always figure something out, right?
yeah, yeah.
My friend again, Kim John Payne, his daughters would come to him and go, "Dad, we're bored." And he'd go, "Oh my." That's it. Right? "Oh my." And they'd go, "Oh, Dad."
You're so
And then they
frustrating.
would
Yeah,
figure out creative play. They would
yeah,
figure out something to do always. But
yeah.
parents don't let their kids get past that
Right.
point sometimes. Okay,
Yeah, it's
let me
kind of
give you
like being
something
a
to do.
helicopter parent in a different
Right,
way, right? If
right.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah, and
Don't
they're
let
gonna
your
lose the
kids,
ability. They're
yeah.
not gonna be able to exercise that muscle.
Boredom is always what comes right before new thoughts, new creativity, and we kind of got to let our kids experience that.
Yeah. Yeah, I I like I've told them many times that, "Oh, good, you get a chance to practice being bored. You need to get better at being bored." And they
Yeah,
hate that.
that's where emergence comes from. That's literally what the term is something emerges from inside, right?
Yeah,
We don't want our kids to it's called intrinsic versus extrinsic, right? Intrinsic comes from inside, extrinsic comes from outside.
mm,
If we're like, here, let me show you what to do. Let me show you how to be creative. Let me show you how to play, whatever, all the time,
yeah,
that's extrinsic. And that makes them dependent upon extrinsic.
yeah,
We have to have faith. They have all sorts of creativity inside and all sorts of imagination, right? When my nephews were your daughter's age, I didn't have a kid yet, and I would buy them the most involved, fancy, well-rated toys for
sure.
$150 or something. What would they play with?
The
The
box.
box, right? You knew that, right? They would play with the box, and I'm sitting here going, that toy got awards worldwide for how creative it is and awesome it is, and I paid all this money on eToys or whatever the website was back then.
Right,
Don't you know how brilliant that is for your brain? They're like, this is a treehouse. This is a rocket ship,
right.
That is what we want to allow. William Yates said, education is meant to be the lighting of a fire, not the filling of a bucket, right?
Mm.
And that's emergent energy. We want to get that fire, We want them to be like, oh, I want to figure it out.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
so
maybe
huge.
that's really what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah. And
We're
if we
trying
hand
to
them a
start
tablet, sometimes
and fan the
we're
flames.
filling the bucket. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
we're creating a bonfire.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's an interesting metaphor to explore. I'll have to think about that because it can get out of control too, right? And so you need to there's some interesting aspects to that.
Yeah.
Well, I
We'll
always
have
love to
2 or 3
finish up
more
these
conversations about
conversations.
it.
I always love to finish up these conversations by asking each guest for a principle that they'd be willing to part with. Give me one principle that that parents can think about when raising their kids.
Oh gosh, I've probably said a few of my main principles, and I'd be pressed to like think of one brilliant one to drop right here. For me, I really loved as a new father hearing Dr. Neufeld talk about you are the answer for your child. Not an expert, not Shaun, not Todd, not anyone else. We're here in the background to help support you, to help whisper something into your ear, to inspire you, to educate you on something maybe you didn't know. But at the end of the day, I could never be for your kid who you could be for your kid. Your kid doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to try, not to be perfect. They just need you to try to understand these things. If you're bumping heads about some things, they just need you to be the one who figures out the pathway out. They can't. Okay? They can't. They're
Yeah.
incapable of it. And so my main message and principle is that you are meant to be the alpha leader. You're meant to be the papa bear, the mama bear, the mother goose, and it's like, if you watch a mother goose with their goslings, are they getting behind the goslings and going, "Hey guys, it would be really great if we went over here," or are they
Yeah.
smacking them around? No.
Yeah.
And I meant that metaphorically. And
Right. No, but no,
don't
they're
suggest
leading the
any of
way.
your good listeners are smacking around, right? I'm just saying that the mother goose, what does she do?
She
She
leads the way,
goes.
and then if
She
one of the
goes.
goslings gets too far away, she goes and gets him.
Yeah. But in
Yeah.
general, when she goes, they go, "Oh, okay." And they
Yeah.
go after her, right?
Yeah.
That is the energy of parenting. It
Yeah.
is, we are meant to be the mother goose. We are meant to be the papa bear. And we don't have to be perfect. We have to understand that How much more wisdom and knowledge and capacity and resources do you have at 51 years old than this 3 or 4 year old has, right?
Yeah.
You're not better than her. You just have more ability to take the lead and she will follow. You just have to figure out where that energy is because she wants to. Her instinct is to follow you, but
Mhm.
she also has instincts if she doesn't feel connected to you or if she feels anxious to not listen to you because
Yeah.
that her instinct tells her not to. And we
Yeah.
have to understand it's all instinct. And if it's all instinct, we understand why the goslings follow the mother goose, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that if pressed, that's what I would say.
Well, Todd, thank you so much. I love that principle, and thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your wisdom. It has been just an absolute delight getting to know you, and I really appreciate
I
you
genuinely
taking.
hope we can do it again because I
I do
love
too.
what you're doing. It's so needed. And there's not enough good resources out there for dads.
Yeah.
And, I help moms and dads, and usually moms are the ones who call me first. But we just need good models for engaged, involved dads who are trying to raise the best boys and best girls that they can. And so I really, really genuinely appreciate what you do and do hope that we get a chance to talk again.
Me too. Me too. And for those listening who are ready to who want to learn more or ready to stop the power struggles and start leading with connection, you can find Todd at transformativeparenting.com. I've got some links in the show notes for you guys.
Yep.
Todd, thanks again, and thanks so much for joining us on Raising Men.
Had a good time. Thank you.
And our guests, thanks for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe, and remember that you are a great parent.
Raising Men is produced by Phil Hernandez. This episode was edited by Ralph Tolentino.